keeping Australians safe and ensuring the government continues to live the essentials Australians.
Now, TRT World senior producer Natasha Hussain has been following this story and joins us live for more. Welcome to the show, Natasha. Great to see you. Now, tell us more about exactly what did intelligence agencies find in this report?
Well, the revelations, as you can imagine, Mubin, are quite damning. They were outlined in a report called an intelligence report called Project Brunello. It was actually released in 2020, but two Australian media outlets unearthed the report and released a report on an investigative piece on what actually happened. So in the report, it's outlined that 150 staff of Qantas had links to organized crime at airports across Australia. These employees were involved in drug importation into Australia and other criminal activity. Now, what's interesting that while these revelations are quite damning, these sort of revelations, it's nothing new. The same sort of vulnerabilities were highlighted in an intelligence report in Australia 10 years ago. So what it does show that in the past 10 years, nothing much has been done to curtail such vulnerabilities in Australian border security.
And yet, from the report, we just saw that the airline says it hasn't been informed by the government that any such inquiry was taking place. And that they have basically no clue. Can you sort of sum up for us what has been the response by the airline so far?
Well, Qantas has said that it's disturbed by the revelations, says that it had no idea that all this was happening, that 150 employees were involved in such criminal activity. Now, this is actually quite surprising, given that 150 is no small figure. It could even be the tip of the iceberg, because this is just what intelligence agencies know of at this point in time. Qantas has said that it's written to 4 criminal intelligence agencies asking for more details on the report. It also says it's very surprised by the revelations because for the past few decades, it has been following to a T the Australian government's stringent vetting procedures on hiring ground staff and also cabin crew. So it is at this moment acting like it did not know how that this happened.
Right, a very sort of clueless response there. But it seems that the pandemic has likely exposed some of these vulnerabilities. That begs the question, is this really the only place that this is going on, or is there a risk that there might be other carriers, freight companies, etc., that might also be vulnerable to these kind of organized crime?
While the intelligence report that we've seen coming out from Australia is one of the instances that we're seeing this sort of organized crime link in black and white, this is definitely not an isolated case around the world. Now, if you think about it, how many employees do we have working at airlines around the world? Hundreds of thousands, millions. And how many shifts there are at any point in time in the day, how it's not easy to monitor what is happening with these employees. Also, the fact that most of our attention, or most of these intelligence agencies' attention, is also focused on the other end of the spectrum, which is passengers coming in, the millions, tens of millions of passengers traveling every day around the world. On top of that, with the pandemic and how we have increased health measures at airports, health screenings, just to make sure that uh, health procedures are conducted properly at airports. So it certainly isn't easy. And on top of that, we have crime groups, and this is something highlighted in Project Brunello as well, in that Australian intelligence agency report, saying that crime groups are becoming more sophisticated with how they're moving drugs and other illicit products and substances around the world. So it definitely is not easy to monitor this sort of criminal activity, and it's not something isolated to just Australia.
Fascinating insights there. Thank you so much for your input, Natasha Hussain.